The world of video games seems to move on an annual cycle. We have a months-long run-up to Games of the Year season, and then we have the rest of the time, the year that we're picking the best games from. Strange as it may seem, we're already halfway through 2025, which feels like it just started yesterday. And I thought that this is a good time to take a look back at the first half of 2025 and see what games might have fallen through the cracks and what big games might be in the running for my own personal Games of the Year list at year-end time. There have been a lot of hits and misses already. Citizen Sleeper 2 Starward Vector delivered, becoming an instant classic in my mind. Hyperlight Breaker, on the other hand, launched into a bleak early access period and was far from the hipster Fortnite that we all thought it might just be. Clair Obscur Expedition 33 was a question mark that's emerged as a huge hit. Earthblade from the Celeste team was shockingly cancelled, and Silksong remains eternally on the horizon like a collective mirage for us all. But from all these hits, misses, no-shows and maybes, a picture is starting to form, so with half of the year gone and half still to come, this video will run through my top 12 games of the year so far, and we'll round things out with a look at the games that could still show up this year and turn this picture upside down. As always, your likes are appreciated. You can sub to the channel for more like this. Let me know your games of the year so far in the comments. I love hearing from you about this, and I will tell you about this channel's Patreon at the end. Open up your wish lists because I think there will be a few surprises in here. So let's do it. This is GOTY Watch 2025. I'm going to run through my top 12 games of the year so far alphabetically. Don't want to get the cart before the horse here and start ranking things, you know. But conveniently enough, the first game on the list is also the first chronologically. It is Citizen Sleeper 2 Starward Vector. This is, of course, a dice-based, story-forward role-playing game in which you play as a sleeper, a copied human consciousness transplanted into a robot body. The first game was an instant classic that took place entirely on a space station called Erlin's Eye, but we did hear rumours about the rest of the Starward Belt. And in this game, we get to go and explore it. On the run in a stolen ship, we explore a wonderful range of places, from Wellspring, the ice mines that provide the system with water, to the neon ganglands of Darkside, a city built on the shadowy face of a disused solar reflector. There are hidden settlements and abandoned facilities to find, and the game's gorgeous writing, art and music really transport you to these places, even though you only really view them from the outside as architecture. The people you meet along the way are gorgeously rendered and written. You'll assemble a crew of misfits along the way and deal with all of their needs, their stories and their baggage, all of the time trying to free yourself both from the gang leader who pursues you and the mysterious glitches that threaten to shut down your body for good. The gameplay has evolved too. There are stress and push mechanics, and you can take your team on contracts as well. It's just a truly gorgeous sci-fi game that feels like a gift to fans of the original. That's Citizen Sleeper 2 Starward Vector. Like a lot of people, I had one eye on the French JRPG, or JRPG if you like, Clair Obscur Expedition 33. The trailers looked like walking through some kind of gorgeous, fantastical dream, and it had promising looking turn-based combat and the feel of a really big budget game. But I think the jury was out a little because Sandfall is a first-time team spun up by ex-Ubisoft employees. So the question was really, can they pull off something this ambitious? We got the answer when this game released in April this year, and it was a resounding yes. Not only is it a very good game, but it's one of the best JRPG style games ever made, in my opinion. It has deep, existential, mature themes, stunning, dreamlike locations, strong doses of JRPG silliness, and an unforgettable cast marked by naturalistic performance capture and nuanced dialogue. I still think that Mael's eyes are some of the most emotional video game characters' eyes that I've ever seen. The whole game is like a journey through a beautiful, sad dream, and in that sense it's very French, you could say. It also had an interesting twist to the combat. It's turn-based, but with pinpoint parrying that's essential to progression, so there was something here for the Final Fantasy and Persona fans, but something here for the FromSoft fans too, and when you put those audiences together, you're speaking to the majority of gamers on some level. That led to the highest ever user score on Metacritic, and I'm still thinking about this game now, months later. It's simply a must-play in 2025, and it was a much-needed win for Game Pass. I think we all have our fingers crossed for DLC, and the story seems to demand a prequel or a sequel, and it's guaranteed to be a big player come Games of the Year time. That's Clair Obscur Expedition 33. And from the biggest widescreen RPG of the year to the littlest small-screen solo dev project, next up is Dawnfolk. It's a light, tile-based strategy puzzle game with resource management and city-building elements. You start off exploring the map, harvesting resources to build more houses, building farms to feed your growing population, and gathering light to explore more tiles. You're basically trying to build a sort of self-fueling machine, but there are various predicaments that you can find yourself in, whether that's simply being in a bind of not being able to produce enough food fast enough, or finding yourself at war with the locals, or dealing with a dark presence who tries to tempt your followers away and sends black whirlwinds towards your structures. Each level has completion conditions and is a puzzle in its own right, and along the way there are mini challenges that you can fulfill to earn a currency that will let you unlock more challenges, more levels and that kind of thing. The story has a short, light, fun story campaign, but then there are loads of challenge levels if you want to keep playing. You can also unlock an infinite build mode if that's your kind of thing. This was a compelling, clean little game made by just one person that I think a lot of you would enjoy, and while it may not be battling with the heavyweights for Game of the Year awards come year end, it will definitely be somewhere on my list. Check this one out, it definitely deserves this nod. That's Dawnfolk. Heading back into AAA territory, this is one of the most AAA games we've ever seen. It is, of course, Death Stranding 2 On the Beach, the Sony-published sequel to Hideo Kojima's divisive, mega-budget art house delivery game. I played the original and had mixed feelings about it. There is a long discussion in the podcast archive that I'll flash up on the screen now if you'd like to hear it, but I think Death Stranding 2 is a much better game than the original. It's set once more in a post-apocalyptic world where people live isolated in survival bunkers, and you play as Sam Bridges, one of the handful of porters who travels from place to place delivering things. You're also trying to connect people to the chiral network to bring this broken world back together. But honestly, the less said about the story the better in Death Stranding, because to be real, it's an overburdened mood board of kind of sci-fi gibberish, but somehow the games are still amazing. The traversal gameplay is seriously compelling as you plot your route, you pack all the tools you're going to need, and then you try to take whatever terrain the game throws at you. This involves using ladders to bridge rivers or climb up cliffs, using climbing anchors to get back down again, and there's an asynchronous multiplayer element where you can use structures that other people have created, which gives it a really nice social feeling. The combat has been improved and Metal Gear fans should definitely take a look. The graphics are incredibly good, built on Guerrilla's amazing Decima engine, and the performance capture is some of the best we've yet seen, even if the stiff dialogue will make your eyes roll so hard you get a headache. But this game has so much to offer. It had moments where I cackled with glee at the spectacle, moments where my jaw dropped, and moments where I sat back in genuine awe of what I was playing. So complex feelings for a complex game, and I look forward to unpacking it in more detail come year end, and I'm excited to see what this bizarre, brilliant, silly game's legacy will turn out to be. That's Death Stranding 2 On the Beach. And back to the indie end of things again, the difference in scale and scope between some of these games is giving me tonal whiplash. It's like trying to grade a fine dining tasting menu against a good solid burger. But I think we all have room in our lives for both of those things, and Drop Duchy is the latter. It's a comfort food roguelike with deck building elements. But don't let all that terminology put you off. This is a really good little game. You start off by piecing together a landscape in a Tetris-like puzzle section, where you piece together a landscape, placing your pieces as advantageously as possible, and trying to screw over the enemy with poor terrain placements and so forth. You then hit go and watch the battle take place to see how well your plan turns out. There are 3 biomes with boss levels and shops to buy more cards and resources, and you can unlock new tiles, buffs and factions to keep the gameplay fresh. I dropped 20 hours into this game relatively quickly, and there's still more left for me to unlock. If you like trying to crack the puzzle of build crafting your way to victory, this could be one for you. It's a really soothing game and a really good concept. Play it on Steam now. That's Drop Duchy. Some of my very favourite indie games like Pyre, Outer Wilds and Kentucky Route Zero have a road trip vibe to them, but none do it quite as literally as Keep Driving. This is a nostalgic pixel art game about driving across a continent to try and get to a music festival. Along the way you have to watch your gas, your car condition, your food, your mental state. You pick up hitchhikers who all have stories and abilities of their own. You engage in card combat against everything from traffic to roadkill to distracting rainbows. You visit cities, you can get out of the car and explore little maze areas to find extra stuff to help you on your journey. You can also buy CDs to expand your road trip playlist. You have to shuffle all the luggage around constantly in a Resident Evil suitcase style puzzle of fitting your crates of beer, your snacks, your spare wheels, your passengers and so forth. And then through all of this you find your way to one of many possible endings that are on offer, and you can play again. There's loads of replayability in this game too. It's a game that is just packed with imagination and 90s/00s nostalgia. The vibe is strong and the gameplay is too, and I think it has some word of mouth buzz that seems to keep rolling on and on. So let's see if Keep Driving can stay in for the long haul and reach its final destination of Games of the Year season come year end. That's Keep Driving. This next one is a big personal favourite. I feel like I've been waving the flag for this brilliant little Hades-like quite a lot this year. I even made a dedicated review video about it that I'll flash up on the screen now. It's Lost in Random, The Eternal Die, and it's one of the most addictive games that I've played this year. I can almost sense a lot of you rolling your eyes when I say that something is yet another roguelike, but wait, hear me out on this one. It's amongst the slickest dungeon crawling roguelikes that I've ever played. You play as a queen who has been spirited away from her kingdom to a dark realm, and she must battle her way through 4 biomes to make her escape. This involves battling your way through various blood-gated combat rooms. There's a lot of enemy variety, and it's accentuated by the different combinations that they come at you in wave upon wave. The combat is incredibly thrilling and snappy, with dodges, different weapons, different abilities, card abilities, dice abilities, but most importantly it just feels smooth as silk, and it's genuinely a pleasure to fight in this game. You win different currencies that you can use to power yourself up in the hub from run to run. You can unlock 4 different weapons, you can unlock different specialisms that give them whole different personalities, and there are various perks like increased speed, increased damage, and those all-important extra lives that will finally get you through to a winning run. There is also the meta puzzle of making a build that will see you through, which means internalizing the different synergies that you can find between weapons and talents and so forth. But my favourite part of the game actually came after that. It came when I hit the power curve ceiling and I realised that I was just going to have to get better at the game to see it through. Beating that final boss and getting all the way there is a vastly satisfying process, and unlike Hades, this game respects your time. You can see credits in around 10 hours or maybe 20 if you want the extra stuff. It's a wonderfully executed game that should definitely be on your radar this year. It's also on Game Pass if you have that. Don't skip this one. That's Lost in Random, The Eternal Die. This next game did pick up a bit of buzz this year, but not as much as it deserved, I think. It's Pipistrello and the Cursed Yoyo. It's a modern take on the top-down Zelda formula that harks back to the Game Boy Advance era for those of you who are nostalgic for that time. In this game, you play as a kind of a spoiled teen layabout whose family are a dynastic entity involved in some deeply nefarious big business stuff. You get caught up in the middle of it all, and you have to go out into a funny little world with just your cursed yo-yo for company to try and bring the family empire back from the brink. And whether that's a good or a bad thing is definitely up for debate. The task involves exploring an overworld full of funny, memorable characters, working your way through various tough but enjoyable dungeons that are really nicely designed. The yo-yo works in a really interesting way where you can bounce it off diagonal panels to hit things that are around corners. You can also walk the dog to travel across water and that kind of thing, and unlock all kinds of new skills. I had a really good time with this game. I think it's a sleeper hit that is kind of eating Mina the Hollower's lunch right now, so don't sleep on it, especially if you have a Switch 2. It's really cozy in the handheld format, and it looks great on that nice big screen. That's Pipistrello and the Cursed Yo-Yo. The penultimate game on this list is definitely going to feature on my top 10 at the end of the year. It's a big one on the indie scene this year. It's Promise Mascot Agency by Kaizen Gameworks, the makers of Paradise Killer. It's a dark, weird, hilarious little game that combines open-world exploration with Yakuza-style minigames and genuinely compelling visual novel sections. You play a disgraced but honourable Yakuza consigned to a cursed dead-end town where you must jumpstart a failing mascot agency business and send the money home to keep the family afloat. You have to strike deals with the bizarre mascots that inhabit this town, including your maniacal sidekick, Pinky, who seems to be a manic teen girl and also, for some reason, a disembodied finger. You travel around the world in your car and you have to charm locals who become cards that you can use in combat. You have to power up the car to explore new regions, whether that's across water or by air. You carry out side quests like exposing the corrupt mayor by getting involved in a political campaign, and you have to get to the bottom of the curse of the town and ultimately save your family and earn your way out of the doghouse. I truly adored my time with this game. I am a sucker for everything that it's doing, from the wavy, nostalgic Japan aesthetic to the surrealist and at times risque humour to the bonkers minigames, the subversive characters. I was just grinning ear to ear the whole time. I'm one trophy away from 100% completion, so for me this is a must-play indie game. Check it out, that's Promise Mascot Agency. The final pick from the first half of this year is a little bit of a wild card, but people who have played it seem to uniformly love it. It's a strategic sci-fi card battler called StarVaders. It's an easy breezy pick up and play run-based tactics game. You play as a mech pilot who moves through 3 different levels. You have a Slay the Spire style map screen where you choose a challenge and then get to work. The gameplay takes place on a grid in a Tetris-like well. Enemies start at the top and then move down each turn like Space Invaders. You have to clear the screen before they get to the bottom, where you will start to take damage. It starts off mellow, but it ramps up quickly to hellishly difficult, and herein lies the challenge, because it's really a puzzle about clocking all of the game's system and build crafting your way to victory. It's an addictive gameplay puzzle, and it has legs because there are various different types of mech that you will get to try out. The first one is a gunner mech that has an overheat system where you can push your mech at the risk of burning your cards. Then the second turns the gameplay on its head completely. You'll be zipping around the screen doing melee attacks in a samurai mech style. Just very cool the way the game reinvents its own rules through the different mechs that you will get to use. Each mech also has different pilots that have different perks and specialisms, and very lightweight stories that you can learn in the end credits sequences. I will say that I kind of hit a wall with this game after 10 hours or so, but it has been patched a few times since then to smooth out the difficulty curve. I had a fantastic time with it, and I think I'm going to play it again this year. So if you're looking for a crisp, addictive, compelling side-screen kind of game for a Steam Deck that has a roguelike build crafting puzzle to crack, check out StarVaders, out now. So that's what's on my Games of the Year long list for 2025 so far. 12 games, very different ones, lots of roguelikes, big AAA games, and some indie weirdos as well. But I'm going to guess that there are people out there who are screaming at the screen wondering why aren't their favourite games on this list. Well, I'm just one person with finite time to play. There are a lot of games that are still on my to-play list, like Wonderstop, like Expelled, like Despelote, and as is traditional for me personally, I always seem to have one indie game that's a big hit that I just don't get on with. It happened with Tunic, and this year that game for me is Blueprint. I found it a bit smug, I found it overly dense and convoluted, and it just didn't gel with me. There are also some games that the jury is still out on. I'm still playing Mario Kart World, and I'm having a good time. I'm just not sure if it's Games of the Year material somehow. I'm also still playing Assassin's Creed Shadows, The Midnight Walk, The Alters, and Monster Hunter Wilds. I tend to talk about everything that I'm playing on the weekly Gaming in the Wild podcast, which you can find on your podcast app of choice, but I will withhold judgment on those games until I, feel satisfied, feel like I've seen everything that I need to see. In some of those games, I feel like that means seeing the ending, and I haven't done that yet, so who knows, maybe Assassin's Creed and stuff like that will end up on my Games of the Year list. Speaking of which, that leads us nicely into the final part of this video. It's going to be a brief rundown of some of the games still to come out this year that could turn this list on its head. But before we get to that, please let me tell you about this channel's Patreon. And before you skip forward, I think it's a really good offer actually. There's all kinds of stuff that you get from just $1 a month, such as an invite to our wonderful Discord community. You get behind the scenes blogs about how I make videos and podcasts. I'm going to post one about how I mixed together the music for this video, for example. So if you're a content creator, I think there's some really interesting stuff for you there. You also get a collection of almost 20 hours worth of bonus material, including a podcast about my recent road trip around the entire coast of Iceland and what I saw along the way. It's patreon.com/gaminginthewild, link on the screen now. Check it out. And I'd like to say a big thank you to the latest patrons in the last week. Thanks very much to William, Larin, Phoenix 6 Fire, Dakliek, and Stuart. And a big thank you as always to the boss tier patrons, Essie Wood, Shy Guy, and King Champ. Thanks very much, guys. You help me make these videos, and I really appreciate it. And with that, let's get on with the show. The next big Game of the Year contender that's coming out on my list at least is Donkey Kong Bonanza, which comes out on July 17th for the Switch 2. And I am an absolute sucker for what Nintendo do. I love their colourful, childlike, appealing, innocent games. And of course their sheer proficiency in the craft of making video games is inarguable at this point, I would say. We also had some heartening news when we found out that it was the Tokyo team that are making this game. So it's not, it's not a side game, it's not a little game, it's not the B team, it's not Princess Peach's Showtime. It's the people who made Mario Odyssey, the Switch 1 launch title that helped to turn Nintendo's fortunes around and is one of the best 3D platformers ever. So this could turn out to be another Astro Bot. My hopes are high. That's Donkey Kong Bonanza, out on the 17th. The entire rest of my list is actually indie games. I guess the other big AAA contender is Ghost of Yotei, but I wasn't a big fan of the original Ghost of Tsushima. For some reason I found it a bit soulless. Even if it was proficient and the landscapes were beautiful, there was just something missing for me, so it's not on my list. But a game that is on my list is Wheel World, the indie game coming out by Annapurna on July 25th. It's a cycling game in a mini open world where you explore the world, you find parts for your bike, you untangle a story about a legendary bike that is coming to change the world or something, and you engage in races as well. So it's a little bit about crafting the bike that you want, as all of the pieces have different attributes, and you piece together the bike, you win new pieces, you win currency to open up new areas. It's just exactly the kind of mini open world that I really enjoy. That's Wheel World, coming out on July 25th. We're also getting Sword of the Sea this year. This was one of my top 5 most anticipated games at the start of the year, and it's coming out on August 19th. It is the latest game from Giant Squid, the makers of Abzu and The Pathless. They make sad, beautiful, wordless games where there's a focus on traversal. This time, instead of racing across grassy plains or swimming through the ocean, we are surfing on sand. So it's a return to the source, as some of these people worked on the classic Journey. I cannot wait for this one. It just looks amazing. I can't wait to see how it plays, I can't wait to see how it handles, and I can't wait to see what this world has to offer. That is Sword of the Sea, coming out August 19th. In October, we get Keeper, the latest game from Double Fine and the first since Psychonauts 2. You can rely on Double Fine for crazy ideas, and in this game you play a walking lighthouse who has a seagull that sits on his head and can go out and interact in the world on the lighthouse's behalf. Double Fine is of course a studio that was bought by Xbox, but seems insulated from layoffs, thank God, because after watching the Psych Odyssey documentary, we really got to know all of the personalities that work there and make their games quite so special. You have to say at this point that making that documentary was a PR masterstroke, because can you imagine the bad press Xbox would get if they laid off our favourite developers from the documentary? But anyway, that's a whole can of worms. Let's hope that Keeper has GOTY potential when it comes out on October 17th. We do also get Mina the Hollower this year on October 31st. I think that one has been doing the rounds for a long time now. A lot of people are very interested in it. And then there are a few games that are coming out that just have a release window, so they're not locked down yet to come out this year, but I think we are going to see some of these games. I'm quite excited about Chronos: The New Dawn. I'm not a big horror guy, but I did really appreciate everything cool that Dead Space was doing, and this seems to pull from that same well of inspiration. It's a horror game where you're creeping through space, there are monsters slithering around in the shadows, and it seems to be pulling from 2001 and Returnal in these hallucinogenic flashbacks that we seem to be experiencing as the player as well. That's Chronos: The New Dawn, penciled for autumn. In quarter 4, we are supposedly getting the Gecko Gods. This is a game that came out of nowhere at Next Fest and won over the listeners of this show. I'll pop a link on the screen now if you want to check out that Next Fest report and hear more about Gecko Gods, which is penciled for quarter 4. In 2025, we are also getting Ball Pit, the really compelling bullet heaven survivors-like, where you're ricocheting balls all over the walls to take out hordes of enemies. I played 4 hours of the demos of this one, and it's just a guaranteed lock. It's coming from Devolver. We're also apparently getting Mixtape this year. People have been playing it out in the summer festivals. It's the next game by Beethoven and Dinosaur, the makers of the psychedelic rock opera The Artful Escape, so high hopes for that one. And then finally, of course, there's been more Silksong gossip. You know, this has been rolling on for years now. The fan base is just going out of their gourd with anticipation and frustration and a lack of information. Xbox have previous. They once announced that Silksong was going to be on Game Pass, and every game that was shown would be happening within the span of, I don't know, 2023 or something. That didn't come to pass, but Xbox have now said that Silksong will be a launch game on their ROG handheld. I'll believe it when I see it, but as everyone is, I am on tenterhooks waiting for Hollow Knight Silksong. I loved the first game. It's one of the biggest indie games of all time for me. In fact, I'm going to point to a video right now. It's up there at the top of the screen where you can see how high it places on my best indie games of the 2020s video. So that's all the games that could come around and turn my 2025 GOTY list upside down, and I'm hoping that some of them do. You know, I'm also hoping for some more Balatro type games that just come out of nowhere and take my breath away. And I always make a pretty big deal out of Games of the Year season. I have have guests on the podcast. I make tons of videos about the games. I love looking back and celebrating all of the games of the year. So this was a fun one to make too. Just a halfway check-in in 2025. If you've enjoyed this video, then give it a like, sub to the channel for more like this, share it with a friend, stick it on Reddit, stick it where people will see it. It all helps me out. And join the Patreon if you've enjoyed the video and you want to support the channel. And until the next one, take care of yourselves and each other, and bye-bye for now.